May I have your attention, please? If you have not done so at this time, please silence all cell phones and pagers, and please sign in. Thank you.
Well, good morning. This meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. This meeting is being held at the offices of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North 3rd Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020, and the time is 10:06 a.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman Shahardy?
Here.
Commissioner Wagasback?
Here.
Commissioner West? Commissioner Vercher?
Here.
Commissioner Wood?
Here.
4 present and a quorum.
Thank you. There being no old business to take up at this time, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, the consideration of change orders.
Good morning, Commissioners. Meridian Ponche on behalf of Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 1,516 change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 1,469. Place 36 in pending status and deny 11. 7 for applying a homestead exemption on a LLC. 5 in Caddo, 1 in East Feliciana, and 1 in Jefferson. 4 for not providing an occupancy date. 3 in Calcasieu and 1 in Evangeline. Staff requests approval of these change orders.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve 1,469 change orders, place 36 on pending, and deny 11 per staff recommendations.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. All right, we'll now consider prior pending change orders.
Meridian Ponche on behalf of Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 58 prior pending change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 39, keep 17 in pending, and deny 2 in Rapides Parish per assessor's request. Staff requests approval of these prior pending change orders.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept staff recommendations as presented, approve 39 of the prior pending change orders, place 17 back in pending status, and deny 2.
I'd second that.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. We'll now consider tax sale cancellations.
Tanisha Malvo on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 3 tax sale cancellations. All 3 are from East Baton Rouge Parish. 2 being erroneously sold because the rightful owner did not receive the tax bill, and 1 was sold, erroneously sold due to dual assessment. Staff requests approval of these 3 tax sale cancellations.
Make a motion that we approve the tax sale cancellations for East Baton Rouge Parish as recommended by staff.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. All righty, we'll move on to the appeal portion of the docket this morning. I will ask anybody who is planning on coming to the table to talk this morning to please come forward and take the oath. If you do not take the oath, you'll not be able to testify as a witness in this morning's hearings.
Good morning. We haven't done this before. We swear that all the witnesses in at the same time. So if you have an appeal on today's docket, if you plan to testify, you have to be sworn in. I'll administer an oath. You'll approach any of the 3 microphones. Affirm the oath by stating I do and state your name for the record. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? One at a time, approach the microphones.
Charles Dickey? I do.
Steve Kalanji, I do.
Karen Ford, I do.
George Wallace? I do.
Derek Lightel, I do.
Russell Amaros, I do.
Thomas Sandoz? I do.
Great. Your case will be called up individually.
Thank you. It is the Tax Commission's policy to accept all documents into the record that were timely pre-filed in accordance with the Commission's rules and regulations. This will be done at the conclusion of all hearings on today's docket. Accordingly, there is no need to formally offer or introduce the exhibits into the record during your appeal hearing. However, if you intend to object to the submission of any of the opposing parties' exhibits, you must notify the Commission at the start of your appeal hearing. As a reminder, this is an administrative hearing, and as such, the rules of evidence are relaxed. The Commission is inclined to review and consider all evidence submitted and to accept such evidence into the record. All right, on the appeal docket this morning, the appeals listed as items A, B, as in boy, C, and item G have all been settled. So we will not be hearing an appeal on those matters on the appeal docket. So let's go ahead and move on to the first appeal this morning, the appeal of Mr. Raleigh LLC versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 19-22175-043. Let's give us a second to shuffle papers. All right, this is a taxpayer appeal, so we'll go ahead and ask you to please begin. And state your name for the record.
My name's Karen Ford, and the property was appraised this year at $40,300. The property next door to this property is slightly larger than mine. It appraised at $24,900. There's a property around the corner, slightly smaller. These are all vacant lots. Nothing is developed, except for the one adjacent to me does have a good fence, and it has been maintained. It looks like he stores vehicles there. My lot is not maintained. I can't even keep up a fence. People just tear it down so they can dump on my lot. So again, the lot around the corner, 2020, slightly smaller than mine, came in at $14,300. I'll just mention one more, again, around the corner, almost the same size as mine, $10,800. Again, mine came in at $40,000. I'm just looking to get that maybe as close to my neighbor at $24,000. That's it.
Did you submit any documentation in support of what you
I'm happy to
testified
give
this
you
morning?
what I printed off of the Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. I'm happy to give you these.
Yeah, I'd like to have copies of that, yeah. Can we make quick copies of that? Okay. All right, while we're making copies of that, Ms. Dalmarez, I mean, basically what she's arguing is an equity argument that these different properties are set at different values.
Yes, sir. Just to mention, the Assessor's Office has no objection to the submittal of the
Okay.
documentation. Our office revalued it. We valued it at $40,000. I think that's a little higher than $3 a square foot. I believe Mr. Wallace's appraisal came in to right around 3 at the $35,000.
His appraisal is at $35,000.
We contacted Ms. Ford to settle for the $35,000. I can't speak to the actual revaluation because I did not perform the revaluation of the neighborhood, but as my understanding, looking at her documentation, it does seem that her value at the $40,000 is substantially higher than the surrounding neighbors.
Okay. Well, I can't,
How would that happen? I mean, kind of walk us through the process.
So, from my understanding, the way the land value is done is that price per square foot is derived using market approach to value, and it's applied to the square footages, and then discounts are given for excessive land, or premiums are given for secondary arteries or superior properties. I'm not sure where and location.
How are some missed, I guess, is really.
It may be coded in a different neighborhood, it may have a different land use code on it. It could be coded as a residual land instead of a neighborhood suburban lot. That's how some properties do fall through the cracks.
So this is just an empty lot. Is the grass being cut or?
There's a cement slab, and then there are some weeds. There's no grass, but there is vegetation. And yes, I've had it cut back. I installed a fence twice. Because of where it's located, it's on a dead-end street. It dead ends at the old Todd's shipyard. So there's just a lot of dumping. There's a lot of activity. It's very dark. People can go there and do whatever they do. There's no grass.
Thank you.
Did you notice when you did your search if there were any properties higher or at the value?
I didn't see any properties higher. And I used the website, I used the map and tried to look at every vacant lot in that area. There's currently a lot for sale, you know, half the size of mine on a corner. But no, I didn't see anybody higher than mine.
If I may, Commissioner Vercher, I think the discrepancy here is the subject property is listed as a commercial property, a commercial lot, and the surrounding area is a residential lot, or it's classified as a residential lot, and I think that's where the discrepancy comes from.
Well, is it a residential lot or is it a commercial lot?
That I couldn't tell you without actually having to see that. It's vacant. That's about it.
Not much
That's all I can
commercial
tell you.
going on.
It's zoned maritime, which I guess right across the levee, they have some activity going on, but I put residential on there too, because that's probably the highest and best use, maybe to build a little house on it or move a house or whatever.
But if the assessor's office has it coded as commercial, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. I think that's why it's higher than the surrounding area. And if the surrounding area is residential, then,
So are we saying this is, I mean, that's a big difference.
yeah. Yes, sir.
And I know the assessor's office has it as commercial. Is it zoned commercial? What is the property zoned?
What's my neighbor zoned at? Because that's an identical lot right next to mine.
Because here,
It's-
just based on the information we have before us, 31, this is, your property's on Patterson Street,
That's right.
3120 Homer Street.
That one's right around the corner.
So
the-
they're all in different
So-
neighborhoods, though.
That's-
So next door is 3107.
Yeah, I have written next door.
And I see that lot size is pretty comparable as far as land area. It's slightly bigger. It's 12,456 square feet.
What's he zoned
Compared
at?
to yours, 11,520. And that's right next door. So to me,
Right
that's
next door.
real comparable and
Right next door.
It's residential.
and
See,
it's
all-
it's
yeah.
at 199 a foot.
Yeah, I'm finding between $1 and $2.
The one
a
at
feet.
3120 Homer Street is $1 a square foot. The one 3325 Patterson Street is at $2 a foot. It's zoned residential, it's listed as residential. And the one at 3107, which is next door, Patterson Street, is at $2 a square foot.
I believe that the $2 a square foot would be the residential value for that. The Homer one is in a different neighborhood. It's in Struby as opposed to Tunisburg for the other two. So the,
Would you object to putting it at $2 a square foot?
no, sir,
That's about
$25,000.
$23,000, $24,000.
I think that's fair.
2340, I think.
Yeah, whatever $2 a foot is.
23,040.
Okay.
43.
All right. All right, well, let's, Mr. Wallace. I'm gonna
Good
let you go
morning, I'm
ahead.
George Wallace, Louisiana Tax Commission. I appraised the lot for 35,000. That was based on the comparables that were in the immediate area. They were zoned residential. This is zoned, it said maritime use, but I considered it more of just a residential site.
Okay. All right. Well, we're looking at trying to look at it to be treated similarly to the property one door down or two doors down.
Next door.
Next door.
Next door.
Next
I can do a
door.
motion.
Okay. All right. Mr. Wagasback, you have a motion?
Yeah, based on the evidence presented, my motion would be to make it very comparable to the lot at 3107 Patterson Street, and class it as residential class. That value is at $199 a foot, therefore this would equate to a land value of rounding slightly, $23,000 even.
I'd second that.
It's land value only.
Commissioner Varcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback.
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent, Chairman Shahardi.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All righty.
you.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is the appeal of Algiers Schoolhouse LLC versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 19-22175-049. The record reflect property owner does not appear to be here this morning, so we'll hear from Mr. Sandos.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thomas Sandoz, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. The property was revalued, and it was appealed to the Board of Review. Board of Review set the land value at $274,500 and a building value of $150,000 for a total value of $424,500. Sorry. Mr. Wallace's appraisal reflects a land value only. And our position is that while we acknowledge that the improvements are in, pretty rough condition, because there was a building there as of August 1st, we need to have some sort of nominal building value on that parcel. So, we need to put a placeholder
So
value on
you don't
that.
object to the 275,
But we need an improvement
so
value.
$100 or,
Some sort of placeholder value until that building, that site
because
is
there's
scraped.
something there.
For
Yeah.
your
Well,
record.
the taxpayer requested an improvement value of 41.7.
Yeah.
So the taxpayer thinks the improvement's got some value. He's not here
Correct.
to
Correct.
defend himself, but
Correct. But that's our position, since there's still a building there, and there was a building
Yeah.
there as of August 1st, the building has to have some value on it,
I-
and it can't just be a land only.
I understand.
Sure.
Mr. Wallace, the building, in your opinion, is a detriment to the property?
Yeah, it's in bad shape. It's caved in ceilings, roof leaks. The whole building's full of mold from being exposed. I mean, it's probably should be torn down, or at least gutted down to the shell at best.
Okay. Well, I mean, just looking at the photographs, there is a substantial building there.
Correct.
It does not appear to be, and it appears that at best it needs extensive
That's correct.
repairs.
Yeah, it's about 50,000 square feet.
Yeah, so it needs extensive
Yeah.
repairs. The property owner is requesting a value of $275,000 with $41,700 on improvements. Have any input on, any questions?
Chairman Shahardi,
Yeah.
the property, as indicated in Mr. Wallace's appraisal, the property did sell at an auction for $234,000, so that would be land and building, I guess,
And when was that?
2017.
and your land value of 275 was derived at, I mean, our appraisal verifies it, and
That's correct, but the issue is that the building is still there and was there as of August 1st. So
Yeah.
we feel like we have to have some placeholder value on the building until the site is screened.
What did you say the auction sales price was?
$233,750.
233,750?
750. 750, yeah, that's on page 1 of Mr. Wallace's appraisal.
Yeah.
So it's a question whether we put $1,000 to the improvement, or do we put the $41,700 as requested by the taxpayer? I mean,
Something needs to be on the improvement
Yeah.
side. That's the issue.
I kind of feel like if the taxpayer felt like the value of the improvement was 41.7, he's not here to tell us how he came up with that number, but
That's correct.
if he felt that was his number, I'm inclined to
Sounds like a motion.
make a motion that it be included.
Just real quick, Commissioners, and I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be ticky-tack or anything like
Okay.
that, and I'm not trying to beat up Mr. Wallace.
Yeah.
But on page 1, he states that, there's a vacant school facility on the property. But then on page, and on page 4, it says there were no site improvements as of the date of inspection. So it's just a discrepancy there.
I think I have enough information to make a
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, I think the pictures kind of speak for itself.
Yeah.
It's a-
Yeah.
There's some,
It's a true shell.
there's some
Probably.
Yeah,
value.
we're not looking to kill
I would
anybody over
move,
here.
I
We
would-
just need some value on the building.
I would move on docket 19-22175-049 that we set the land value at $275,000, the improvement value at $41,700, for a total value of $316,700.
Second?
Commissioner Vercher,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent, Chairman Shahardi.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Vercher, that was 275 on the land and 41.7 on the building, correct?
That's
Thank you.
correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Wallace, can you tell us, did you give us any information about your appraisal?
Yeah.
I appraised the land at $275,000, and I felt like the building had no contributory value to the site.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Oh, and it was just a typo that he was talking
Yeah.
about in my report.
Okay, thank you. All right, item F on the appeal docket, the appeal of Jesse George versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket numbers 19-22175-053. This has got to be a real heavyweight because we've got all three of you sitting at the table. Just give me 1 second. All right, it appears that no one is here this morning on behalf of Mr. George, so we'll ask the assessor's office to go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. So we had revalued the property, went to the Board of Review, got appealed to the Tax Commission. The Board of Review actually upheld our value. We received the appraisal from the Tax Commission staff appraiser and contacted Mr. and Mrs. George in order to settle with them for staff's value. We were unable to execute a settlement agreement, and I think you're going to find that being the case for a number of the residential properties. I think maybe due to the holiday schedule, we just were not able to get in touch with either party.
But you were not able to speak to him?
Was not able to speak
So
to
you're
them.
saying your office is satisfied with the staff appraisal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Mr. Dickey?
I personally inspected the property at 616 Barrett Street in Algiers Point, did an interior inspection with the help of the property owner, and using sales from the Algiers Point area, determined a value of $235,000 with the land valued at $28,100. and the improvements valued at $206,900. It's a per square foot value of $155 a square foot. There were several single-family sales in the point in the last year and a half, and the average value of those is $155 a square foot. So this house came out just about exactly where it would be within the market. I also made an effort to contact the taxpayer to make sure they knew about the hearing and got no response.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions? I think our staff appraisal is probably
I'm ready to make
right
a
on.
motion if
So-
you're,
Okay,
if you'd like one.
please.
In the matter of docket number 19-22-175-053, I would move that we set the fair market value at $28,100 for land, $206,900 for improvements, for a total fair market value of $235,000.
Second.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagsback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahart?
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, item G was settled. We'll move on to appeal docket, Appeal H, the appeal of Graham Robinson versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 19-22175-056. We did get, let's see, we did receive an email on Mr. Dickey. I think you
Yes.
must have forwarded it to us.
Yesterday afternoon,
The
Mr.
property
Robinson
owner
responded.
Was, yeah, the property owner accepts the staff appraisal, is that correct? Okay, so that'll be in the record on behalf of the property owner, even though that property owner is not here this morning. Let's hear from the assessor's office.
Yes, Commissioners, we actually contacted the property owner to settle at staff's appraisal, just were not able to execute a settlement agreement. I left a message on the machine and was not able to hear back from them, so we have no objection to staff's appraisal value.
Okay, all right. Mr. Dickey, you want to go
I
ahead
did
and
an
tell us?
interior inspection of 544 Olivier Street in Algiers Point with the assistance of Mr. Robinson and his wife. And after considering sales of similar properties in the point, valued the property at $225,000 with an undisputed land value of $55,400 and improvement value of $169,600.
All right, any questions? You have a motion?
Based on testimony and the agreement to allow the staff appraisal, I'll set the land value at $55,400 and the improvements at $169,600 for a total value of $225,000.
I'd second that.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagsback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. The next item on the docket, the appeal of Skip Gallagher versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 19-22175-062.
We have an email from that taxpayer as well.
We do? Okay. All right. Mr. Gallagher's not here this morning, but we do have an email from him stating that he is in agreement with the staff appraisal of $130,000. Yeah, he's in agreement with, he accepts that appraisal, so we'll enter that in the record on his behalf this morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. So we revalued the property as if it was in commerce, and we were not able to see the inside. After seeing Mr. Dickey's appraisal, it's poor condition on the inside. So we reached out to Mr. Gallagher, and once again, we were not able to execute a settlement agreement, but we have no objection to staff appraisal. We just cannot see the inside of the house to see the condition.
Okay. So the assessor's office is in agreement with the staff appraisal?
Yes, sir. We just have to treat it as if it's in condition until we can see what's on the inside of it. But we have no objection to the staff
So
appraisal.
you have no objection
Yes.
to Mr. Dickey's appraisal of $130,000?
Correct.
Okay, all right. All right, Mr. Dickey?
Made an interior inspection of 516 Belleville Street with the assistance of Mr. Gallagher, and arrived at a value of $130,000 with undisputed land value of $52,800 and the improvement valued at $77,200.
Any questions? Motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion in the matter of docket number 19221755062, that we set the fair market value for land at $52,800, improvements $77,200, for a total fair market value at $130,000.
Second.
Commissioner Archer?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagstaff?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahardi?
Yes.
Which one was the, oh, Spencer, okay. I got it.
All right, next on the docket is the appeal of Peter Tran versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 19-22175-066. All right, please state your name for the record, and,
Morning, Board. Derek Lytell.
okay, now, are you here on behalf of Peter Tran?
Yes, I am.
Was that Mr. Tran in the audience?
Yes.
Okay, now, he's not there right now, but,
I don't know if you went to the restroom or...
okay, all right, so he's here.
Yes.
So, okay. Normally, we require a agent form to be filled out for someone that's representing an individual. However, if Mr. Tran's here, we'll probably get him to say something on, is he going to testify this morning, Mr. Tran?
No, he's not.
Does he hear?
I don't think he was sworn in.
He was
No, he
not
wasn't.
sworn in.
Yeah,
is.
okay.
Chairman Shahardi, I believe we have an agent.
What's that?
I believe we have an agent
You do?
representation form on file as
With
part of
this?
the appeal.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah, good morning. You can sit down, yeah. Do you, so Mr. Lytell's going to represent you this morning, Mr. Tran? Okay, all right, so Mr. Lytell's going to represent Mr. Tran this morning at the hearing. All right, well, ask you to please go ahead.
Good morning again. We had the property values shoot up in this area, and this assessed value does not, it doesn't support, it doesn't add up. That area is going down. We had it under contract at $159,000. That deal just fell apart. I looked at the appraisal from Mr. Sandos, and one of the comps is actually Life Center Church, which is miles away. The square footage is pretty much comparable, but this is two different animals. One's a big, huge church that was destroyed by Katrina, but this little bitty building here that sits underneath the bridge in a wooded area in bad shape does not compare to this big church, and it kind of throws it off. So the taxes went up on it severely. So we went to Delgado and for the first hearing, and they approved it to keep it at $121,500. And then afterward, Mr. Peter got a letter from the commission saying that they're going up on it to the, I think it's 133. But they went up, but that area does not support it, that value at, they have it at 144, which 121 is pretty accurate. And I sell in that area. I'm a commercial broker, and for years I sell all over the West Bank. But Jack Stump also mentioned to me that there's no way, Derek, you're going to get 159 for it. And here we are today. Just lost the contract.
Is this just before you cross the intercoastal?
Exactly, it's right underneath the intercoastal bridge. Right,
There used to be an old Schwagman's to the right, right?
correct.
Yeah.
The, I might be jumping ahead of myself. Is this property under contract to be sold?
Just lost the contract to get sold.
Okay. And why did the contract fall through?
Didn't appraise,
What's that?
did not appraise.
Oh, it didn't appraise?
No,
What
sir.
did it appraise for?
I'm not sure what it appraised for, but from the agent sent me the cancellation. They said it didn't. It just didn't appraise, so we lost the contract.
It was under contract for what amount?
159
$159.
at the list price.
In Mr. Wallace's
Okay.
appraisal.
All right.
Okay.
So your seller didn't have an opportunity to counter at appraised value?
No, no, sir. And when I listed it, I informed Mr. Tran that I said I don't think we can get that. We can put it out there, just to see what happens. And then someone really wanted it, but the bank, of course, wouldn't lend it because of the appraised amount.
Let me get those pictures again. Give me 1 minute. So the interior of the building, is the building usable at all?
No, sir. The lights are on. Water's not on, but it's just a empty building with a bad roof and water constantly coming in it. There's black mold. And just that area is just a bad area.
Was its last use like a deli or some type of?
It was a seafood market, like convenience store, mainly seafood.
Okay. The assessor's office and Mr. Wallace's appraisal both value the land at $121,500. Do you think that's a fair value for the land?
No,
What do
no,
you think
sir.
a fair value for the land is?
Maybe 100,000 at that size.
Say that again.
With that size. It's a big piece of property, but it's heavily wooded, tall trees, forest, but not at
Well, I mean-
121.
Okay.
Now, your overall value that you're requesting is $132,000.
The original value that it, yeah.
But your seller, who's also Mr. Tran, feels like the property's worth the list price.
He knows this, he knows the value of it, but just trying to get as much as he can. It's been vacant since 2015.
So bottom line, what do you think the overall value of the property is
Land and building,
together?
I could sell it today for 130,000.
Because the request is $132,380 is the request.
Okay.
Okay.
And the staff appraisal is not far off of that at $144,000.
Right.
The difference really is in how you value the improvements.
Right.
Staff appraisal is about double the improvements. So 22.5 is the breakdown for the improvements. All right. Well, let's hear from the assessor's office real quick.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thomas Sandoz, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. The property was appealed to the Board of Review for the 2020 tax year. I don't have any evidence that any change was made by the Board of Review at all. So they left our value alone. Subsequently appealed to the Tax Commission. Mr. Wallace's appraisal indicates a value of $144,000 total. Just to quantify, there were no improved sales included in the staff appraisal. The comparable sales are for the land only. And their comp number 3 is a very similar sized lot on the West Bank. Sold for $2.20 a square foot. And Mr. Wallace's indicated land value is at $2 a square foot. So I think that's fair. There is a remark on page 4 of Mr. Wallace's appraisal that the property is vacant, and it is under contract for $159,000. But based on the testimony from the taxpayer's representative, apparently that deal has fallen through. We don't have any evidence of that other than his testimony.
Well, it's testimony under sworn
Yeah,
oath.
no,
so
I understand.
I'm not gonna think for one moment.
No, no,
that
no,
he's
no,
not
no,
telling
just,
us
right,
what would really
right.
happen.
And then on page 12 of Mr. Wallace's appraisal, it states no similar buildings were available for comparison, although the subject is under contract for the listing price as per the agent of $159,000. So Mr. Wallace performed an income capitalization approach to value on the property. It states that the subject is vacant with no known lease history except for $2,000 a month supplied by the owner. So I guess my question is it vacant or is it being leased? Because that's the number Mr. Wallace uses to perform his income approach.
Is the property vacant?
It is currently vacant.
So has it been under lease recently, or?
No,
Was
not at
that
all.
when it was owner occupied?
It was
or-
on occupied and,
And they paid it
the
to a
last was
LLC or
2015. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the property is currently vacant.
That's
And
his
not
testimony,
leased,
yes.
there's
No.
no income being made.
Okay.
Not a ground lease either.
No, no, sir. sir.
No income.
Mr. Tran thought about even donating the property, but he'd just rather sell it. But at that price, no one's, it won't sell at that price.
Okay.
Based on, the income approach to value that Mr. Wallace performed, the assessor's office would be okay with the $144,000 because the appraisal clearly states $2,000 a month supplied by the owner in terms of income.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the, it looks like the land value's the bulk of it, and it's fair at $2 a foot unless you have something that can disagree with that. Based on your knowledge of that area, is $2 a foot fair for that type of commercial property?
Not today, maybe $1.75.
But you have anything to support that you can give us, or?
If I have time, I can provide it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you got about 2 more minutes, maybe.
Gotcha.
You said you could get him 130,000 this afternoon.
I
or
probably
today, I
can.
think is how you said.
I
So,
probably can.
You do the math, and we're getting real close to the land value being what Mr. Wallace has, and the improvement value being what Mr. Wallace has. We're getting within a few $1,000s.
Right.
If you can get it this afternoon, you can get him $12,000 more in a month.
Yeah, I think that would be within a 10% variance anyway.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Okay.
typically, if the assessor's okay with the 144 and you're asking for this, if they're within 10% of our value, the taxpayer, we kind of roll with the request, so. I think I'm prepared to make a motion.
Let's get Mr. Wallace's
Sure, I'm sorry.
testimony.
Okay.
I thought it was-
I appraised the subject property based on the vacant land comparables. I came in at $121,500, and I did do an income approach, and the total value was $144,000 indicated by that approach, with $121,500 for the land and $22,500 for the improvements. And again, yeah, it was under contract through MLS for the $159,000. I did check it again yesterday, and MLS reported that it was sold for $159,000 on December 19th of 19. I didn't get any deeper in that. I don't know if it got entered into MLS after that, or the deal, I'm not questioning him, I'm just letting you know the information
Right.
shows that it did sell. But if the deal fell through for 159, then,
Well,
then so be it. But anyway, my final value is 144,000.
And who said it was under lease for the $2,000?
I believe I talked to Mr. Tran, and it wasn't, I'm trying to recall if it was under, it's not under lease now, but the history when
I
it was
see.
leased was 2,000.
I see.
Okay. Any more questions? Any motion?
Yeah, based on the testimony presented, we'll set the land value at $121,500, the improvements at $22,500, setting the total value at $144,000 even.
Second?
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagglesback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahardy?
Yes. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, the appeal of Kalonji Revocable Living Trust versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 19-22175-076.
Two of them, sir?
Yeah, just come on, we're gonna talk about the first, we're gonna talk one at a time, though. The first one we're gonna talk about this morning is gonna be the property
The 3328.
3635 Lang Street, is that correct?
No, no.
3328 General Meyer.
3201 and 3328.
3328 General Meyer.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 3328 General Meyer, okay. Yeah. The address must be the mailing address that we have on the phone.
Yeah.
This will be the old bank building.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sandos, while he's getting ready.
Yes.
It appears, did the Board of Review reduce the value?
Yes, sir, they did.
They reduced it to $170,000.
That is correct, yes, sir.
And Mr. Wallace's appraisal is $171,600.
That's correct.
Okay. So,
So,
are you okay with the board?
Not to jump ahead, you know.
You're okay with the Board of
we
Review
would
value?
suggest upholding the Board of Review value.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
okay. I'm not telling you what to do or what to say, okay?
I have a lot to say.
Okay. All right. Well, we may or may not need to say it depending on what I tell you and how you feel about it.
So,
What the assessor's office is saying is that the Board of Review reduced their value from $256,900 down to $170,000 for the value. Our staff appraisal came in at $171,600. So I guess my question to you would be, would you be satisfied with the $170,000?
no, sir.
Value? Okay, all right. Well, go ahead and let's hear what you have to say.
Well, first of all, gentlemen and madam, I want to thank you for allowing me to come here to this committee to talk about my problem, okay? And also, I want to say that the assessor in New Orleans says that he wants someone to come forward and tell where he is wrong. I don't want to tell he's wrong. I don't want to tell Chuck Dickey that he's wrong, or George Wallace that they're wrong. I was an engineer in the medical field, and I also took psychology. And I feel that instead of telling people they're wrong, you should try to tell them what can be done to rectify the situation. I'll give you an example. For instance, when I hear a parent scolding a child, don't do this and don't do that, I feel that they should say, do this and do that. When you tell them don't, they don't understand that. But when you tell them to do something specifically, they will understand, okay? My situation goes like this.
I'm very appreciative to come here, okay? I'm in desperate need of your help. And I feel that instead of telling those folks that they're wrong, I think there's other things that need to go into consideration of why you need to have the piece of property valued for specific reasons. One of the main reasons is this. I'm 90 years old. People tell me I don't look like I'm 90, they don't think I'm 90, and I'm in very good health. And I'm slowed down, but I always think positive, and I don't think about what I did wrong in the past, because if I thought what I did wrong in the past, I wouldn't have been doing anything, and that's a big mistake. So I feel that I'm going to live maybe till 100. I hope I do, but I'm thinking positive, okay? But my wife is 12 years younger than me, and she's handicapped. She's a big help to me when I have to go through these things. I submitted a great deal of information and statements to the assessor in New Orleans, okay? In addition to that, I also gave information to the people on the review board. I understand that they reduced it down $170,000. Not two, but they reduced it that much. Okay, I don't feel that was enough. So that's why I decided I was going to come here to the Louisiana State Board of Review for you, Mrs. Shahardy, and talk to you about it, okay? Now, and President, it would be very difficult for both of us to have to pay if we went into a nursing home. With the amount of money that we are making, we have a fixed income. We get in Social Security, okay? We get $220 a month from one tenant, a dentist, because we had other tenants. They had 3 other tenants, and we were getting $220 a month from them. Now, what happened was that the assessor had an appraiser go around to the building when all those people were in there, and they learned that the people are paying more than $2,200 a month because they were paying for the taxes, they were paying for the insurance and all that. But we were netting $2,200. Now, these people were in there for about 10 to 12 years. And so what happened is our assessment, when we first bought the building, that particular building, 3201, we bought it for $120,000. And Jimmy Smith was the assessor at the time, and we didn't pay more than $1,800. And then when Tom Arnold took over, he still kept it about that same amount of money. However, when the new assessor took over as a single assessor, I'm one of the people that was in favor of keeping the 7 assessors. I was on a finance committee with money to try to keep the assessors. I sent letters to the editor of the Times-Picayune. They didn't even report it at all. They were very strong, if you recall, about getting rid of all the assessors. Now, when I was in my mid-20s, I bought a house in uptown New Orleans. And my uncle, I'm just a young guy, took me to the Standard Mortgage, to the president, said, my young nephew here wants to buy this house in uptown New Orleans. He said, okay. So he approved the loan. He said to me, Steve, what you do, he says, every year you go and see your assessor and even try to get him to reduce it by $500. Well, I took his advice and I did it, okay? So then I moved across the river in the 60s. Jimmy was Modenbach's son-in-law, and he appointed Jimmy, you know all of this, okay, the assessor. And Jimmy had an office on the 4th floor, whatever it was, at City Hall, and he was the only assessor that had bars on his counter, okay? So I went up there to see him, and Jimmy says, I asked him about if he could give me a little on the new house I bought. He said no. It's very easy to say no, okay? So that really irritated me. When Jimmy Smith ran for the assessor's position, I supported Olaf Fink, the big senator from the West Bank, Olaf Fink. I had big signs put on a 12-bed truck for Olaf Fink and said, remove the bars from the only assessor's office in New Orleans, okay? So, but nobody votes against the assessor, but they're afraid that the assessor's gonna increase their taxes, all right? So lo and behold, guess what? Jimmy Smith and I got to be the best friends. Fritz Winhar, Jimmy Smith, we were like that, okay? So then, Jimmy Smith retires, and they put Tom Arnold in there. I'm very close with Tom Arnold, and that's how I got involved with the financing part about trying to keep the assessors.
All right, look, let's talk about your property,
Okay, no,
okay?
I am-
Tell
I am.
me,
I
tell
am.
me what value you think it ought to be.
No, wait, will you mind if I tell you why I'm saying I think it ought to be reduced? Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay, this property is involved in Algiers on the West Bank. It's a dead corridor from the 3,000 block all the way up to the 4,500 block where Joel and Smith used to be, okay? And it's really very poor, and people are moving out. There's a whole bunch of businesses, at least 16 of them, that have left the area. Joel and Smith, Piggly Wiggly, A&P, Harry's Ace Hardware, Walgreens. Walgreens went ahead and built a brand-new building on General Maya, right at Cable, 6 years ago. They did so poorly there that they closed the place down. And just recently, one of those Dollar General stores has opened up in there. And there's a whole bunch of companies that have actually left the area. And they have a Dollar General, like I just mentioned. And then in 1976, we purchased 3201 General Maya for $120,000, okay? And our taxes were approximately $1,800 a year. But ever since we got the new assessor, each year they keep raising it, raising it, raising it. Now he's got the building worth close to $500,000, and the taxes for 2020 had it listed for around $9,000 and something dollars.
That, I think we're on
We're on the other property right now.
3328 General Meyer, the bank
You
building.
went 3228?
Yeah, that's the one we're
Okay.
discussing right
We
now.
bought that building for $125,000 a year later, okay? And they had that property up to over $2,000.
Yeah, I see it was, the total value was assessed was
Look, I have these
125,400.
for you. Can I give these to you?
Why don't, let's make sure we're all talking about
We
the same.
probably have all that
No,
already.
you don't have this. This is new.
This is new?
I gave you a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'd like to give you this. This is what I'm talking about here.
Okay, well, you have to show it to Mr. Sandos to see if he has any objection.
I'm gonna give one to everyone.
Oh, okay, all right. We need to focus on the value of your property
I
at
understand that, Mr.
3328.
Hardy, but the problem is, what I'm trying to say is, I'm too old, I didn't pay a lot for the property, I don't have anybody leasing the building. The bank building has been vacant for 15 years, okay? And we had two companies come in after Katrina, and the second one that came in had a year's lease, and they broke the lease after 6 months, and they did all kind of damage to the building. It was $140-something thousand, and we had an attorney, that Judge K.K. Norman, who was a friend of mine, recommended this guy. He took 13 years before he went to court with it.
Why don't you just pass it down?
We can grab them and pass
Yeah,
them
just
down.
pass them down.
Yeah.
And what value are you asking for?
I'm just asking you, gentlemen, this lady, to reduce it to what is reasonable. A 90-year-old man and his wife, not any income, nothing coming in, instead of paying these
So-
big high.
Well,
But it looks like on your request that you requested a value of 170,000.
No, he put that down
What are you requesting? Because you need to tell us what you're requesting.
there. I don't remember. In other
Well,
words, he put
on
it
the,
first-
on your appeal form,
Do they have it on it?
yeah, you requested a value of $170,000.
And the Board of Review gave you 170.
Yeah. You requested 170,000, and the Board of Review put it at 170,000.
And the assessor is okay at 170,000.
Well, the one I'm really concerned about is the other building. And let me tell
All
you
right.
this.
Let's settle on this
Let's
one
stay,
first.
we got to do one at a time.
So you're
So-
okay with what they did with this
Yeah,
one?
in other words, I was okay with that. In other words, if you look at everything they haven't turned in, I have
This
very
was-
little, few things said about the bank building. Other than that, it's,
So it looks like the bank building they've carried for a long time at 125,400. They did increase the assessment to 256,900. Now the assessor's okay going to 170,000. Okay, so that seems fairly reasonable in relations to what the staff appraisal came up with, which is actually 171,600. So,
Right.
so the assessor's agreeing for a little slight less.
but let me say this,
Then
Mr. Wagensback. In other words, prior to, in 2019, it was valued at 125,400.
Correct.
So that's a big jump to 171,000.
It is, but it could be that that value of 125,400 has been on the books forever. Because it sounds like you bought it for 125,000, and maybe
Right.
they're just kind of catching up to increase it some, you know? And maybe they leaped too far. Obviously, it was a big sticker shock from 2019 to 2020, and I think they realized that, and that's why they want to come down from 57,000 down to 170,000. So I think they're being reasonable in accepting staff's appraisal. And the bulk of that value is the land value. We realize the building is in a dated age condition with problems.
Yeah, but look at the price they have on the land value, 112,000 compared to 32,000.
Right. And I think our appraisal will explain that, how he arrived at that value of justification, I think.
I think that's kind of
He may
high.
have did an income approach. Now, let's see, we
Under
got,
the circumstances, I really feel it's high.
well, he put it at $3.50 a foot. There were sales anywhere from $2.73 to $5.19 a foot. So the average price on his three comparables that he came up with, all in that, two of them were in that 3,000 block of, well, one of them was a 3,000 block of General Meyer, the other's Berman Place, the other's Page Street.
But those particular places that he has listed there, they're in a different area completely from General Meyer Avenue altogether.
Well, this is 3613 General Meyer. That's got to be pretty
Okay,
close to.
I think that happened to be a nursery school.
Okay. Well, we'll let him explain that, but,
All right.
so it looks like they're being reasonable with 170,000. I guess we're trying to figure out if that's acceptable to you.
Well, I really feel it ought to be lower than that.
Okay.
I really
Okay.
do.
All right.
Under the circumstances, that's what I feel.
Mr. Sandos, do you have anything to add?
No, other than to reiterate, we would be okay with the upholding the Board of Review's value of 170,000. Mr. Wallace's appraisal is slightly higher than that.
Yeah.
So we would be okay with the 170,000 that the Board of Review issued based on the taxpayer's request. The property was purchased in 1987 for 125,000. It had been assessed at 125,000, or valued at 125,400 since 2013. And then,
It jumped up this year.
2020 was revalued, yeah. So,
Okay.
bottom line is, we're okay with the Board of Review's value.
Well, don't you think that's a pretty large increase?
The law talks in terms of value. And, you know, based on the property, you said since 2013 was at 126,000 value?
125,400.
Of value.
Mr. Shahadi,
Yes,
we can't even lease the property, and I haven't been having a sale sign up there for over a year.
What are you
Haven't had
asking for?
One, huh?
How much are you asking for the property?
I just put a sign up there to keep people from bugging me. I put the price up there even, you know?
Okay.
I know and what happened is I had Jack Stump, one of the big realtors from the West Bank, come over there to my office, and when he's walking out, he says, I might be able to get 250,000 or less. And I had two other realtors that came in there also, and they told me the same thing.
Okay,
So I'm
well-
having a very
well-
difficult,
So
I
you kinda
can't
told
lease
on
it.
yourself.
Huh?
You kind of told on yourself, so 170 sounds reasonable.
770,000 is a lot less than 250.
I think we need to make sure we're talking about
No,
the
no,
same
no,
property.
I understand that, but
Now, are
Which
we
property are you
still
talking
talking
about?
about?
let me say this. My father-in-law, Freddie Wilkes, that owned the Piggly Wiggly supermarket, built the building where Sherwin-Williams is, and the barber shop is, and the Almonds were and so forth, and he ended up selling it for only $200,000. And I don't think, if we get 200,000, at my age, I might take it.
All right. Mr. Wallace?
All right, good morning again, George Wallace with the Louisiana Tax Commission. The property is a former bank building, and it was confirmed to be vacant for about 15 years. It's in fair to average condition. Excuse me. The land value is, based on the vacant comparables that I had, was $112,600. I didn't do a cost or a market approach just due to the age and difficulty in comparing depreciation and the cost. And in the market, I couldn't find any other similar bank buildings that had sold or buildings like that. So I did do an income approach, value of $171,600. And again, the land, $112,600, improvements $59,000. And I felt like these vacant land sales in the area, after they were adjusted, I had a range of 242 to 519, and I correlated it at $3.50 a square foot.
Mr. Shahadi.
Yes.
And gentlemen and ladies, the building was built and designed by August Perez, one of the biggest architects in New Orleans, for the Bank of New Orleans in 1975. The building cost $800,000. They merged with the NBC, okay? NBC's decided they had too many banks over there, so they decided to sell that. They could not sell the building. And that's how we were able to get it and use it as an office, for administrative office, not for people coming in and out, for us. And that's why they sold it to us for $125,000. And we can't do anything with it.
All right.
It's a white elephant.
You went to the Board of Review and you were instrumental in getting the Board of Review to reduce the value to the 170?
Sir,
Yeah.
what happened was, I went to the Board of Review, there were two gentlemen I saw there, they were very nice, okay? They never told me they were reducing it to 170, they never told me that. But they said that they would do it, and they said more than likely, the assessor would go along with it. But they never mentioned any figure to me. And I wasn't with them but for 10 minutes.
All right. Mr. Vershi, you
Yeah,
have a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion on docket number 19-22175-076 that we uphold the Board of Review value, set the land value at $112,600, improvement value of $57,400 for a total value of $170,000.
I'd second that.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahardi?
Yes. All right, the next item on the agenda, the appeal of Caljoni. I apologize for mispronouncing.
Kalanji.
Kalanji, I'm sorry. Kalanji Revocable Living Trust, versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 19-22175-077. All right, now this is the property at 3201 General Meyer Avenue.
Yes, sir.
That's the one we're going to talk about now.
That's the one we purchased for $120,000. And also the papers that I just gave you. We have a history of the property, and I also have information from Peter Taluta, who was a MIA appraiser in 1979, and was talking about how poorly the General Meyer area was going down. And we were able to make it into a medical complex, and when the doctors and the dentists and the pharmacists go in there, we gave them the shell, and they built it for what their professional needs were. Their professional needs will not help us anyway in renting this building out. When the pharmacist left, he did $62,000 worth of damage. I'm surmising that he did that because, so I could not get another pharmacist in there. So we have a lawsuit against him right now also.
And sir, so that we know, you're requesting a value, our information shows you're requesting a total value of $220,000. Is that correct?
Where'd you get that from?
From the information that you filed,
Oh, okay, okay.
is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to establish a starting
Right.
point.
In other words, when they asked us to do that, we filled out the piece of paper with that.
Right. Because the Board of Review did not reduce the amount on this property to the extent they reduced the value on the last property. I'm just making sure that you're aware of, we're trying to get a starting point.
You talking about the Board of Review in New Orleans?
Right, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say that.
And what did they have?
The assessor's office talking about total value, feels like your property's worth $463,900.
Right.
You're requesting $220,000.
Right.
The Board of Review says the property was worth $400,000, and our appraiser says it's worth $284,000. Now, that's just, so
That's a little bit above what we've been paying prior to this year.
That's correct. And you're sticking with the $220,000?
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Sandos, do you have any comments?
Yes, Commissioners. Property is located at 3201 General Meyer. As Commissioner Vercher stated, property was appealed to the Board of Review, and they reduced the value to $400,000 total. That's $77,800 on the land and $322,200 on the building. As the taxpayers indicated, there's some vacancy issues, obviously, in the building, probably some condition issues as well. We had the land valued at $2 a square foot because it's slightly higher, larger than the typical lot on General Meyer, so we reduced it to $2 instead of $3 a square foot, because there's a discrepancy between our land value and the land value indicated in Mr. Wallace's appraisal. He placed a value of $3.50 a square foot on the land for this property, just as to be equitable, or to match the $3.50 a square foot on the other property on General Meyer. I don't know how we're going to handle that. I'm okay with the $2 a square foot on the land.
So if you take his improvement value and you take your adjusted land value, we're real close to the
Real
taxpayers
close.
requested $220,000.
That is correct, yes, sir.
So are you, in a roundabout way, saying you're okay with the $220,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because I think the $3.50 a square foot on this parcel is probably a little high, because the site is larger.
All right, so,
Mr. Kalonji, you don't sound like you need to say anything
you
else.
don't need to say anything. You're about to get what you want on this one.
What's that? What did you
Don't talk
say?
yourself out of it.
I heard what
You
he
may
said.
get
I
what
didn't hear
you
what you said. What?
I said, he said, you're doing really well on this appeal, on this particular
Yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah.
so you don't need to say
No,
anything
right,
right now.
you're right,
If I
you're
think
right.
you need to say
Always
something, I'll
learn
take it.
that.
Yeah.
When somebody agrees to something.
We had somebody up here one time,
Keep
they
your
were
mouth
doing great.
shut.
They were doing great, and they talked too
Right.
much, and they almost talked themselves out of
That's
it.
right. I learned a long time ago.
All right, just give us,
When
just
somebody says something good, be quiet.
just give me a second.
No, but I gave you a lot of good information on the whole deal.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, for the record, the assessor's office doesn't have any objection to
220.
the exhibits submitted by
Oh,
the taxpayer.
thank you. Yeah, I think we have most of that already in our packet, so.
Yeah, I think if you take our old land value and you use the 148 in the staff appraisal,
think,
you're looking at 225.
Yeah, I think Mr. Wagaspack has done a calculation. He'll explain it in a few minutes. Mr. Wallace, give us your input.
I'll be brief. My land value was $136,000. I did an income approach. It was $284,000 total, with $136,000 toward the land, $148,000 to the improvements.
Okay. All right. Just give me a moment.
So as I understood, it's $2 a foot on that lot?
Yes, sir.
In our lots 338, 889, just want to confirm the square footage?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I'm prepared to make a motion if you,
Okay.
so based on testimony and in agreement with the assessor, we'll set the land value at $77,800, assuming my math's correct, and the improvement value at $142,200, for a total value of $220,000.
Second?
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagasback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner West is absent. Chairman Shahardy?
Yes.
May I say one more thing, please?
Sure.
I want to thank you all for what you've done, and I can tell you that I want to thank Mrs. Marvo. She's been very helpful to me. I was like this, trying to make a decision, and I've had some big people tell me not to come and do come, and it was because of her, I finally decided. I stayed up all night last night, getting up like I was doing a final exam, you know?
Well,
And I drove up here, got up at 5 o'clock this morning.
Oh.
to Come up here.
Well.
And she's been wonderful, she's been very nice, very helpful.
Well,
And
we
Mr.
appreciate those
Mr.
kind
Jeff,
words.
Crosby was nice also.
Okay.
Good,
How about
thank you so
Mr.
much.
Dickey? Was he nice?
Mr. Dickey
Was
was,
Mr. Dickey
was
nice?
Mr. Dickey nice? Because he's not always
Oh, yeah,
nice.
that's what I said. I told him I told you that he didn't do anything wrong. Where were you? Right, thank you. Okay, you want, what?
Be careful driving back.
Thank you for
Be
coming.
careful. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank
You take care. All righty. Take care of
Thank you,
yourself.
Commissioners.
Want you to come back here when you're 100 to tell us hello.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
Assuming we're still here.
gotta think positive. People ask me what I do. I think positive, I take a lot of vitamins, and I stay busy. Well, the only thing, I'm slowing down a little bit, but you gotta stay busy, take vitamins, and take care of yourself. This is the temple, you got one, you gotta take care of the temple yourself. Nobody else is gonna do it for you. And I have a hard time getting my wife to do it, she can hardly walk, you know?
Any red wine involved?
Well, a little bit.
Just a little
You
bit?
can't drink too much red wine because it's got a lot of alcohol in it.
That's my
Where
problem.
white wine has less.
Mr. Wagaspack may not be here when you turn 100. is what he's trying- He may not be here when you turn 100,
Oh, is that right?
unfortunately.
I'm very envious. You're in great shape for
You
90.
are in great shape. Do not look it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Santos. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
All right. The last item on the agenda was settled, so we're not going to hear that appeal. The Tax Commission hereby accepts all pre-filed documents and oral testimony into the record as Taxpayer Exhibit 1 in Globo, Assessor Exhibit 1 in Globo, and Louisiana Tax Commission Staff Appraiser Exhibit 1 in Globo for each appeal hearing conducted today respectfully.
Oh, Oh, by the way, don't go up ladders. There's a guy that just was honored, 110 years old, at the World War II Museum. And he said that one of his secrets was, don't fall, don't fall. And I've had a number of friends who have fallen, and some of them have died. And you can't. Like I used to do, I was very athletic. There's a lot of things I used to do. I don't do them anymore, okay? I even stopped playing golf until I was 88 years old. I stopped doing that because I was too slow. One of my partners said, "You too slow." So I said,
Well, that's why I spent a lot of time on the sofa, and the only real exercise, I limit myself to strictly walking to the refrigerator.
but you're not, yeah. But you're not taking it, you're not walking, you're exercising?
No, I am.
Do you go to the grocery store?
I do go to the grocery store with my wife.
That's one thing I do. Let me tell you what I did. I walk with a basket, okay? I'm in the supermarket for 2 hours. The other day, I went to the supermarket, no basket. There was a motor cart. I drove that cart for 1 hour. Man, when I got up off that cart, I was miserable.
Yeah, you're probably stiff.
So you
Yeah.
gotta keep busy.
Yep.
sir.
Good
All right.
advice, thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, I will.
All right. I entered everything into the record, I believe.
Yes, you did.
Okay. All right. I don't believe there's any other matters to come before the commission at this time, so I will accept the motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagaspat?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
yes.
Commissioner West is absent, and Chairman Shahardy.
Yes.